Welcome to the best board game of all time, a series where we rank the best board games of all time. Today we're going to be talking about an abstract board game with tons of complexity. Today we rank Onitama. Entering the list this week is Onitama, a two-player competitive game designed by Shinpei Sato and published by Arcane Wonders. Thematically, you're one of two martial arts schools visiting the shrine of Onitama to challenge each other using beast powers and probably also martial arts, though realistically this could be reskinned a majority of settings and conflicts. I generally imagine a game of Onitama is recreating the volleyball scene from Top Gun. This figure here is Tom Cruise. The game sets up like this. Roll out your mat. Line up your team on the side of the board with the matching temple arch. The master goes on that space with your students alongside them. Then shuffle up the move cards and deal 2 to each player, face up. Then flip over one more card. The color icon on the bottom right of that card will determine who goes first. Put that card to the side of the board to the right of the first player. Each player turn consists of 2 steps, in a specific order. Step 1 and first is to move and attack. The last step is step 2, which is to exchange cards. During the move and attack step, you choose one of the 2 face-up cards dealt to you and move your pieces according to that card. When you look at the move card, you'll see the name of the attack, the start square, which is the black square on the grid, and the squares where the piece can potentially move. If you move your piece onto an opponent's piece, you capture that piece. Why martial arts students are capturing a rival school students is beyond me, but I don't make the rules. Anyways, one of the ways to win is to capture your opponent's master pawn. The next step is to exchange cards. You take the move card you just used and put it to your left side of the board. Then take the card from the right side of the board, and that will make up your hand for the next turn. Now it's your opponent's turn, and they'll do the same thing, with the cards circling around the board. There is one other way to win, which is to get your master into the opponent's temple arch space. That's the basics of Onitama. All the components fit into this box, which is about a third the size of a standard Fantasy Flight Games box and takes out about 1/9 of a standard Kallax-style shelf. So it's got a small footprint in a world where game boxes are getting bigger and bigger. I think it's important to applaud games of certain scopes. Oftentimes we get carried away with endless figures and mountains of dice. All the strategy and all the content you need comes in this little box. It's easy to take to a gaming session, it's easy to get in and out of backpacks. The components are fine. You get a playmat, some good quality cards, and a few pawns for each side. The pawns are a bit simple, but that's okay. You can see a few of the molding lines, and they have a look to them that they're meant to be carved out of wood or maybe hand sculpted, but it doesn't quite hit the mark in my personal opinion. The hard plastic that it's made of looks kind of blocky, but kind of in between handcrafted and mass-produced. The box itself has ample space and compartments for all the components. It wraps around itself and seals with magnets. If you're familiar with recent collectible card game boxes, you'll notice a similar principle. For someone like me who appreciates simple and elegant designs, this hits all the marks. Onitama is a perfect information game. A lot of games incorporated shuffled decks or dice or have player hands that hide their potential moves. Not in this game. In this game, when a game starts, all the variables are in the open. Which is not to say that the games are similar from game to game. Since you're only using 5 of the 16 cards that come with the game, you'll very rarely have games where you can rely on a familiar strategy. You have to consider the game each time you play. I love the way that the move you use will soon be in the arsenal of your opponent, so it's very hard to press a particular advantage. You can't even count on a particular move coming back to you. I've had games where I've sat on a card because it was a particularly strong move in a certain situation, and I just had to wait until my opponent kind of slipped into that spot, and then I pounced. Let's look at a potential move card setup. 5 cards dealt, being the monkey, tiger, boar, horse, and ox. Look at all the moves relative to the start point. 3 of the cards can move 1 space forward. 3 of the cards can move 1 space back. 2 cards can move directly right or left. However, there is only 1 card that can move diagonally, and only 1 card that can move more than 1 space away from the starting point. While the tiger can leap a square, it only has 2 possible moves. While the monkey can move diagonally, it can't move non-diagonally. That's not always to say these particular moves will be powerful in any given game, but you need to look for unique movements and how many potential types of moves there are. This game requires a lot of thinking, like a lot. If you want to be good at it, you have to consider not only the immediate moves of your opponent and yourself, you have to consider what moves will be coming to you and to your opponent. The further out you can anticipate turns, the better at this game you will be. If you have two people familiar with strategy games and high-level play, you could have games that last up to an hour. Casually, you can probably bang one out in about 15 minutes, but there is this potential for a long, emotionally draining game. It may behoove certain people to use some sort of timer system like they have in chess. For me, the gameplay is really where this game shines, not the components, though those are adequate. For a lot of people, that won't pass muster. However, if you like the idea of the gameplay, you can really modify this game. With such simple components, you can make a homemade version out of wood, or rocks, or clay, or whatever. It's a game you can make an heirloom quality version of and keep it for decades and decades. You could use D&D figures and use it as an abstract combat scenario type game. Rename, reskin the cards to whatever theme, reach out to your favorite Etsy crafter and have them make a version of the game that suits you best. When I see games like Onitama that are so simple and yet so complex and so deep, I almost get the feeling that the designers solved some sort of mathematical equation. All the pieces just work and it fits nicely in a contained space. There are a few expansions for Onitama where they add cards and I think another universal piece for both players, but I'm not really interested in that. I think Onitama is one of those games that is just finished and complete right out of the box. It's elegant and doesn't get in the way of itself. It's quick to set up, get in, and put away. Onitama is very close to a perfect game. So, where does it rank? Obviously number 1. It's the first entrant in the list. However, I think that as the list grows, Onitama will still hover towards the top end of the range. It's just too elegant of a design, and it's too great of a package to fall far down on that list. And that's all for today. If you're interested in Onitama, there's a link below to buy it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I would appreciate it if you liked the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to be notified of more entries into the Best Board Games of All Time series, hit the bell icon. Thank you for watching the Best Board Games of All Time. We'll see you next time.